Hello, and welcome to the Embrace Balance, Discover Joy podcast. I'm Amanda Butland, your host and intuitive life coach. All right, well, welcome to another episode of the Embrace Balance, Discover Joy podcast. Today, my special guest is Kerisma Vere, a author and wellness coach. Kerisma, thanks so much for being with me today.
Oh, thanks, Amanda. I just love these opportunities to have conversations like this.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to start with my little icebreaker question that I ask all my guests. Would you mind sharing with us what hobby or activity brings you the most joy and why?
All right. Yeah, it's been creating and it can be, I'm not a very good drawer or painter. I found those things frustrating, but like I've been using different tools, different platforms like Canva and all kinds of other things and or even like the writing the books. I just wrote a children's book and brought an idea of a tear turning into a firefly into a children's story and just creating. I love it. And it's been this new create. I always was a bit creative, but like this new creativity has been born out of my own healing journey, it seems. And it's been hilarious the last 2 years. It wakes me up at 2, 3 in the morning. It won't let me sleep. So it's like sometimes I like just write it down. I dictate it and I write it down. And other times I have to like keep sitting up because it's like there's more coming to me. And so yeah, I've learned to like act on that when I can, in the morning or whatever, but, or at least write it down so that I can come back to it. But I love bringing things to life. Like I spent, I don't know, 12 hours working on my brochure two
Wow.
weeks ago. And it's just like, it wasn't because I was trying to get it perfect. It was because it's like the brochure represented my world, what I have created, with my books and my courses and my coaching. And it was an act of love and care, and it was just like, I just kept wanting it to represent my vision of things. So yeah, taking these ideas and then turning them into like what I think, transforming them into different forms of art is just I can't get enough of it.
Wow, amazing. I love that. I love like, just the envisioning like just the idea, like taking that idea and then like making it real in like the real physical world. That's I just love that so much. And the fact that like you've written a children's book now too. So that's like super cool. I love that. So thank you for sharing that. I just creativity. It is one of those things that's sort of like, you basically give birth to something that, was just in your mind. It wasn't tangible and making that real. So love it.
Yeah, the self-publishing thing is like it's amazing, right? Like, I had my idea, I created it, and then like this is a proof copy, but
Oh,
the
cute.
fact that you can take your idea and have it delivered to you, it's like and turn it into like something physical manifest in the world. It's just like and once you've learned the how to self-publish, it's like that's a lot of the work. So it's a lot
Mm,
easier to go from idea and outline into to creating what I want and then getting to the finished product. But yeah, it's just
cool.
blows me away.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. All right, so we're here to talk mainly about coaching. So I would love to talk a little bit more about, what it is that sort of maybe I always like to hear, sort of how you got here. What was your journey to becoming a wellness author and wellness coach? Because I always find that, there's always a journey there. So I was wondering if you wouldn't maybe be sharing a little bit about, how you got to this place.
Sure, I had been I had about 14 years clean and sober, and I had been working with a woman in her business and supporting her coaching business, and was doing a lot of the admin. And she sort of said, "You should be a coach." And I worked with some other coaches to kind of lay the foundation within myself to be able to do that, and stepped up, and things kind of didn't really work out very well between me and her. But I'd already established myself, so I was calling myself a weight loss coach because I had lost 80 pounds, right? And so I was like, really in the zone about all of that. But I will admit, I don't think I really helped a lot of people lose very much weight, but every last one of them, I helped them improve the relationship that they had with themselves a little bit,
Mm,
and I helped them improve the relationship they had with goal setting and how they responded to themselves, whether they were doing well or doing not, and how they identified the things that were getting in the way of the changes that they wanted to make. And so that was all kind of like I picked up on that, but I got sick. My trauma came back. Well, I guess I'd only done the tip of the iceberg and I didn't know that. And I got really unwell. And first I had a breakdown and then I ended up relapsing and, you know, got to a place of like, I actually had sort of like an amnesia. Well, I did have an amnesia. So I was like really not when you can't rely on your whole life's history and the things that
Mm.
you've learned, that's not a great place to be. But um, so I had to rebuild, and there was a humbleness that came out of that breakdown at like I don't know, I think I was about 48 years old when it happened, and it was just like kind of understanding that everything that I had done hadn't really worked the way that I had wanted it to, and a new understanding of my own mental health, and a new understanding of the importance of the relationship with myself, and like all kinds of things. And then it was a rebuilding. And I was lucky I got a really good therapist and I started to kind of really start to understand things in a whole different light than I ever had before. So mostly I was just focused on my own healing for the first 5 years, but then I got stable enough and functional enough that I started to be able to help people around me again because I've just sort of naturally always done that
Mm.
my whole life, but I had very different things to offer. So I just let go of the whole like weight loss coach tag and it was just like, no, no, no. It's like, okay, well, my own approach to myself is a holistic wellness approach. So that's the closest thing I can say. But, you might come to me because you want to learn to drink more water or you want to go to the gym more, or you want to change your nutrition or, you want to work on any aspect of your life and we can do that, but the foundation of that is going to be like me working with you in regards to the relationship you have with yourself, right?
Mm.
Like let's help you become more attuned, get really tuned into your own values and your own needs and your own capacity and really learn how to respond to yourself with like compassion, not necessarily without accountability, but with compassion and support and real understanding and have your worth come from an intrinsic sense of
Mm.
self-worth that we're all worthy as human beings and because that's my journey. So that's what I believe in, right? And I know many of us, particularly, in generations right below me and above me, it's just like we never had the luxury or the freedom or
Mm.
the permission to prioritize that relationship with self, right?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. You're right. Especially the generation that came before. But I think, I love what you do around this sort of focus on relationship with self. Because, and until we can, be in relationship with ourselves, like really, like you said, like have that self-worth, really know your value, know your worth. It's really hard because then you're sort of walking around, sort of doing the things that you think you should be doing and not necessarily doing the things that are truly important to your own,
And
your
then
own
and then and
values.
they never land, right? And we can't actually
Mm.
we can't stick at them because the truth, like I think it's so obvious, right? Like because if we're with somebody who's like, judgmental and critical and never acknowledges the thing that, how the things that are important to us or stuff, it doesn't make us feel good, and we tend to actually not really even want to be around that person. And it doesn't motivate us at all. Sometimes it scares us a little bit into behaving the way they want us to, but that's about it, and it doesn't feel good. And eventually, some of us take longer to do it than others. Well, eventually, we're going to evict that person from our lives, right? But we can't actually do that with ourselves. But when we've
Mm.
been spending our whole life treating ourselves that way, it's like it's not really a wonder that we think that we don't have a lot of self-love or that we struggle with trust and all the rest of those things because self-love and self-trust, in my opinion, come actually from like, learning how to respond to ourselves with like
Mm.
real understanding, real acknowledgement and validation, right? Like
Hmm.
the critic never takes anything into context, right? It's just like you're bad because, right? Like And there's like compassion is like, oh wow, you've got this history and this is going on and this happened and this so, and that doesn't mean we necessarily give up the goal or that we don't hold ourselves accountable. It's just that we come in now with some understanding, right? We can go,
Mm,
oh, and then I can gently hold myself accountable. I can go and I can ask like real questions like, oh, okay, well this goal, like this not eating junk food all the time is really important because it's impacting our health. So how can I support you making that change? Right? Like how can I meet you where you're at? Not who you used to be, not who you want to be, but who you are right in this moment. I actually see and hear what is going on for you. I recognize that you care and that you're having a hard time. So how can I help you? Right? And
mm,
then and the superpower that I think about that is that when I learn how to acknowledge and meet myself where I'm at, I am no longer so vulnerable to when I don't get it from the rest of the world. And the rest of
mm.
the world actually kind of sucks at giving it. It's not intentional, but a lot of people don't have the skills, and quite frankly, we're all like a little preoccupied with our own lives, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said there around, acknowledging and validating, sort of having that compassion for yourself, really knowing your own context and offering that acknowledgement and validation for yourself so that, you're not seeking that out from everybody else. Because you're right. Everybody's sort of like trying to meet their own needs, trying to make sure that their own needs are being met. And so trying to, or waiting for somebody else outside of you to give you that acknowledgement validation is, you could be waiting forever.
It's a recipe for disaster, right? And I think a lot of the times people do actually care too, but they don't know what to say, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they often say the kind of the wrong thing, and then we go away feeling like more discouraged and more defeated. But that works the same. But like our internal dialogue has the same impact on us, right? That it does
Mm-hmm.
externally. And I think the other thing I really wanted to touch on today with you is that part of this to me has been this new understanding of what healing and wholeness looks like. And I spend my life kind of thinking that, success and healing and growth and that like fixing things about myself and eliminating parts of me that, I didn't like or I thought were problematic, right? And what I really came face to face with after my breakdown was actually that all that did was create a lot of internal discord. It created a lot of internal chaos, a lot of internal grief and struggle and distress, right? Where I think the real understanding I have of wholeness and healing now is actually learning to be in relationship with all of those parts of myself.
Mm.
It's not that I want to let them run the show, but it is acknowledging that they've all served a purpose at a different place. There was valid reasons why these aspects of myself, and they don't need to go in a good or a bad box. That's not doing
Mm.
me any favors. They're just like all a part of the picture. They're all a part of me, right? So as I've learned
Yeah.
to turn towards them with like love, unconditional love, right? Then there's this new experience of peace and wholeness that I couldn't even that was not even on my radar, right? Like that's not to me
Yeah.
what I understood as the healing process at all. But it's actually like kind of a beautiful thing. And then,
Mm.
we can not only do we learn to meet those parts with that unconditional love, but it's like we also learn to have that kind of mastery of being the person at the head of the table or being the
Mm.
person who drives the bus, right?
Yeah.
That can occasionally let other parts indulge a little, right? Like, okay, we're gonna have that ice cream cone tonight. We're not doing that every night, but we could do that tonight, right? Or when that person turns around, if you want to stick your tongue out at them, we can do that. Just, every once in a while, or however it is, right? And I love that I can respond to myself almost all the time now with like this unconditional kind of love, right? Like
Mm.
that's the automatic response now, and that got rewired from an automatic, critical, harsh kind of thing. And every once in a while that still comes up. And then, but I love there's still another compassionate part that can come to, oh, okay, so we're back here. Are we all right? Okay, so all right. I wonder what's going on. Or all right, we'll just like hang it. We'll just we'll just I'll let this be for a little bit and go about all the other acts of self-care and see what happens. I don't need to, I don't know, I just don't need to be at war with all these different things about
Mm,
myself anymore,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, I love that so much. Sort of just the imagery of like, all those different like voices or components of your personality. But I just love like how much acceptance you now have around all the parts, right? It's like it's not about, like you said, putting it in a good or bad box. Like there's no bad part. Each piece of you did serve a purpose. It was created for something. There was probably some protection that created whatever voice that existed. But now that you've come to this place of like wholeness, it's just accepting each and every part and allowing them sometimes to like speak up and meet that need, or you know, um, uh, say it's okay to do that at some point, but they're not allowing them to run the show. That you have sort of like this, it's almost like I imagine like all these people around this big like boardroom table, and
Hmm.
right, it's sort of like that.
It gets pretty noisy sometimes, right? It's just like, but that's my job. It's just to like, okay, okay, it's the okay. You go, okay. Everybody, has everybody felt heard now? Okay, so this is actually what we're gonna do. But I understand why you guys have those. But I think because you said there's no bad parts, I need to credit Richard Schwartz and his book, No Bad Parts. I do
Mm,
internal family systems work, so some of my ideas and my own healing comes from that, taught to me through other people. But I mean, that is kind of the premise that we all have these different parts, and there are no bad parts, right? But
yeah.
that's where, to me, real harmony and self-love comes from, is just like in learning to accept, like, and that doesn't mean we have to continue to do things the way we've always done them, but we could meet those parts with love, go like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to just go back to something that you had said a little bit earlier on around, sort of around this compassion piece, but then also not forgetting about the accountability. Because I think, when you think about, giving yourself compassion and allowing yourself, these moments of, I'm going to try the ice cream, I'm going to have the ice cream or not. But getting back to the accountability piece, because people do have these goals and they do want to, do better or whatever it is that their goal is. And so just that balance between, having compassion, but also being held accountable or holding yourself accountable to still meet the goals. So I wonder if you could maybe talk a little bit more about sort of that balance of like,
Sure.
being kind
I,
to yourself, but
I,
also having the accountability
there's a
piece.
lot of moving pieces in that, but
Mm,
for one, like, for myself and the people I work with, like, first, let's tie the goals into our values and our wants
mm,
and our needs, right? The ones that are intrinsically ours, they're important to us, right? And if we've done the work to build that intrinsic self-worth, we're no longer doing this because we need to, we have to, we should, to be good enough, right? Or to be acceptable, or because like that's the only way we're ever going to be happy, right? We're doing it out of a place of choice, right?
mm,
So when I struggle, like with this accountability, it's like, oh, okay, I want to have fish and chips tonight. I'm known to have fish and chips once a month, right? Okay. So I really want to have fish and chips tonight, but I also really want to have quality of life as I age, and I've got some health things going on, and I'm also trying to lose weight because of those things and stuff like that. So the conversation becomes, it's like, all right, is it reasonable to have fish and chips tonight? Like, when's the last time we had fish and chips, right? What else is going on? Can we have one piece of fish and throw out half of the chips, right? So there's a bit of negotiation and compromise. And I found personally, like, I do an 80/20, right? So I find 80% of the time creates a fair amount of progress, right? Momentum. So if I use, I think, what is it? Perseverance. If perseverance and consistency, 80% of the time, I see pretty good results. And if I allow that 20% for some flexibility and to just like whatever, right? Then I avoid the rebelling against myself, the it being so restrictive that I'm now taking away from quality of life,
mm,
right? I don't And I no longer get into these fights about myself or these paradigms of like, oh, well, you had the fish and chips, so you just, destroyed your whole diet. Or, I'm not making fun of that. Those are very painful feelings to have, and it's a very difficult struggle to get caught in. But when I can be flexible and allow for 20% being human, allow 20% to have the things I love and enjoy, right? And then but make keep coming back to it's like, okay, well, I had fish and chips last night and I kind of like pizza tonight. But it's like, okay, well, let's look at that. Is that really a good idea, right? What if we made a chicken quesadilla at home? We get that cheesy that you're craving, right? But we that's getting us back into the nutrition category that's going to work better towards our goals. And then what if we set like our, you know, next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever I'm gonna say, right? We'll have pizza then, right?
Mm.
But it's based in my choices. It's based in that I'm not doing these things because somebody told me I have to lose weight. I'm not doing it because I need to lose weight so that I can feel good about myself, right? Or because I somehow am ashamed of the weight that I am. I'm just doing it because, hey, this is important to me because my health matters to me.
Mm.
So when we get torn between instant gratification and long-term goals, which do bring amazing rewards and gratification, it can be very difficult. So for me, I really want to come back to being able to use my wise mind, which is your emotions and your rational mind, to kind of look at like, is this the best choice right now? And look at the bigger picture. It's not a yes no kind of thing. It's not a success failure kind of thing. It's just like, okay, well, we didn't go to the gym. I'm trying to get back to the gym right now. It's not going that well. Right? But I just keep working with myself because it's important to me, right? Like the strength training is going to do so much for my longevity and some of the other things that I've got going on. Like it's just that's why I want to do it. But I'm working with myself because I understand that it's been winter and I got a new heated blanket for Christmas and it's like so I've been doing a few other things. I got active at home. I've been running a mobility thing. I'm finding other little solutions to work with myself because the goal is important to me, right?
Mm.
But
Hmm.
that flexibility is that meeting myself where I'm at, and that real patience with myself of like, okay, so yeah, we were gonna do that today. That didn't happen. All right, okay. So let's try again tomorrow. But accountable is like, okay, well, was there a good reason you didn't do it today? Well, maybe, right? And I also like to measure resistance, right? And that's part of that self-attunement with the relationship with self. So
Mm.
if I don't want to do something and that's at a 70% or a 60%, I probably want to listen to that, right? Because it's not going to do me any good to force myself to do
Mm.
it, because that's going to backfire and actually have negative health consequences like stress and all kinds of other things, nervous system dysregulation that are actually going to work against me. So I'm going to lose the value of doing whatever it was I perceived to be
Mm.
healthy anyway, right? But if it's the resistance is like, 35% just because like, oh, I'd have to get dressed and it's a little bit cold out and I don't really want to leave my little nest. It's like that's when I'll push, right? I'm like, okay, like like I hear ya, but like, and maybe I'll compromise a little bit, but I'll work with myself, right? But now my system has kind of learned to trust me that,
Mm.
when it's important that I change the plan, it knows I'm going to listen, right? And it
Hmm.
and it also is a little bit more willing to work with me when it's just like that general kind of like, I think change, comfort zone is always hard to get out of, right? So,
Yeah.
but my system's a little bit more willing to work with me because we have this new relationship with each other where
Yeah.
where I listen.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I
Does
love
that
that.
answer your
I love what you,
question?
yeah, no, absolutely. I love what you said around just the why behind it, because that's like the thing that sort of like it drives you. But also the flexibility. Because I think you're right. When people are rigid and they're like, it needs to be like this all the time, and you don't have that flexibility, then yeah, it's really, really hard to keep going because it's like you're fighting yourself. So I love that 80/20, the little allowing yourself that flexibility to not be so rigid.
Yeah, I think the other like just the other little piece of it that I always pull in is personalization, right? So
Hmm.
like I want to eat nutritiously for my own goals, right? So if I force myself to eat broccoli, it's gonna backfire. I don't like broccoli. Maybe I should, but I don't, okay? I don't use the word should word either, but I don't like broccoli. So forcing myself to eat broccoli is not gonna do me a darn bit of good. But I do like peas and different green lettuces, and I figured out I can put spinach in my shakes, and I love cauliflower, right? It's not a green one, but I so there's lots of vegetables, there's lots of
Mm.
healthy things that I do love. So I those are the things I buy, and those are the things I eat, right? And then I don't have to wrestle with myself about broccoli.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I do want to be mindful of time. I do want to start to wrap things up a little bit here. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. Before we wrap up, I do want to just open it up. Last, final thoughts, any special message to our listeners today?
Um, well, I guess like the premise behind my journal ways I showed up for myself is just to like you don't need the journal to do it, but I just made the journal super simple because so many of us when we're trying to make these changes get really overwhelmed quickly, right?
Mm,
So the journal is intended to take 3 to 5 minutes at the end of the night, and if you do it somewhat consistently for the 60 days, you're actually going to rewire your brain. But you can do it without the journal. It's just like at the end of the day, maybe start to practice asking yourself some different questions, like not like just trying to redirect that mind that's going, where did I mess up? What did I do wrong? What do I have to worry about tomorrow? And just like maybe throw in a like, what did I do today that was hard for me to do?
mm.
What did I do today that took a little bit of courage? What was one thing I did today that I maintained? What was something I did that I was able to let go of, even if for just 10 seconds, right? Because when we start to do that, we start to bring in this new lens of recognizing ourselves. You'd
Mhm.
be amazed what can happen out of that.
Yeah, I love that so much. Just sort of like looking at the positives versus just always, beating yourself up. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think, the journal, I think we're going to have links to reach out and find your stuff in the show notes for anybody that's interested in the journal or connecting with you. But thank you so much again, Charisma, for speaking with me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thanks, Amanda. It's been great to connect with you.
I invite you to subscribe to the Embrace Balance Discover Joy podcast and join our community. If you feel inspired by what you hear, please leave a review and share this podcast with others who might benefit. And remember, it's never too late to embrace balance and discover joy in your life. Stay tuned for our upcoming episodes filled with inspiring stories and valuable insights. Until next time, take care and be kind to yourself.